Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and don't forget to listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, guys, and please like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. My 47 male, daughter Stacy, 15 female, has one of the two rooms in my house with an ensuite bathroom. It's a largish room with a nice bay window, obviously very nice. I've recently become engaged to my girlfriend of 3 years, Alice, 33 female, and her landlord has recently hiked her rent, so we're planning to have her move in with me. She has some kids. She has 2 daughters, 13 female, 10 female, and 2 sons, 11 male and 9 male. She's also pregnant with our daughter due in about 5 months. I've made it absolutely clear to my daughter, as a condition of getting her approval on moving my girlfriend in, that she is allowed to keep her room, and she's also allowed to have a full lock on her door. For what it's worth, I also got my son's, 24 male, blessing to give away his old room, although that's more of a moot point, as he lives with his own girlfriend now. My daughter plans to go to school locally, and I've told her in no uncertain terms that she's welcome to live at home for the rest of my life, and after that, she can inherit the house. I bought the house with her mother and paid it off in large part with her mother's life insurance 10 years ago, so it only seems fair. She says she's all right, as long as she has her room and her bathroom and she's allowed to put a lock on her door. She has a toaster oven and a mini fridge in there, so I guess she's pretty well set up. Stacy will be giving up a room that she's currently using as a studio, project space. She does art, videos and voiceovers, etc. So even her larger room will become a bit more cramped, and she'll definitely need the extra space she has. There will be a bedroom for Alice's girls, Stacy's old project room, and Alice's boys will be getting my son's old room. I'm going to be putting in a finished nursery bedroom in the basement for our new daughter. Alice thinks this is unfair. She thinks it was wrong of me to make the decision without her, and she also thinks that she should move her 2 daughters into Stacy's room, and that Stacy should have to move to the smaller room that they'll be getting. The 2 of them already share a smaller room than the one I'm moving them into as it is, so they're getting an upgrade regardless. Alice thinks that it's not fair for Stacy to have a bathroom all to herself, and that there won't be enough bathrooms for everyone else. She also disapproves of Stacy being able to lock everyone out. There were other small things she didn't like that I agreed to with Stacy, like the fact that she is to be paid for any babysitting, or the fact that my older car, her mom's old car, is hers when she gets her driver's license. We'll have our own bathroom in the master bedroom, and the house has 3 other bathrooms besides. 1 on each floor, 1 near what will be her girls' room, 1 not far from what will be the boys' room, and 1 basically directly next to the new finished room. I told Alice that my deal with Stacy is non-negotiable, set in stone, and that it's literally a condition of her even moving in. Alice is upset that Stacy and I both have spaces completely dedicated to ourselves. I have my office, which I need because I work from home and have projects besides, and there aren't a whole lot of other spaces to put people. I told her that she can pretty much do what she wants in the living room, but that it is what it is, and there's pretty much nothing to be done about it. A bigger house is not an option, unless Alice is going to start making a hell of a lot more money and buy her own bigger house. It's already a pretty big house, and housing is expensive. I told her that she's already getting a break by my only expecting her to contribute 15 or 20% to household bills. If we were doing it proportionately, it would be more like 25 to 30%. We keep separate finances, and we've agreed to a prenup. Alice just seems upset that I won't change the setup, even though there's no real way to change it, and she's accused me of treating Stacy like a spoiled little princess and letting her be queen of the house. Frankly, my daughter comes first. She's lived here her whole life, and I already know it's going to be a big adjustment having all these other kids move in. As much as I love Alice, and as much as I want our relationship to work, if it's a matter of choosing between the 2 of them, then my relationship with Alice is a sacrifice I'm willing to make. I've told her that if she comes into this with wicked stepmother vibes, and that'll be the end of things. She thinks I'm being unreasonable. Am I the a-hole? Well, Alice is pregnant, so I foresee that this is going to be awful for Stacy. Alice has shown OP that she doesn't like OP's daughter. I think OP has a big problem. I think that OP is delusional if he thinks that 5 teenagers are going to coexist peacefully when the mother of 4 of them is already disrespecting Stacy by calling her a spoiled princess. OP needs to make sure he has a will, because if anything happens to OP, Alice will dump Stacy out on the street. I think OP is an idiot for getting involved with Alice, and especially for getting her pregnant. And now let's hear the community's opinion. You're not the a-hole, but I hope you plan to keep a close eye on how Alice treats your daughter after she moves in, because the way she's talking about your daughter is a huge red flag. Definitely not the a-hole, and I would seriously reconsider the marriage. Your daughter's life will be a living hell with this narcissistic woman, and eventually, so will yours if this is how it starts. You don't think it's best that your girlfriend finds another place to live instead of putting your daughter through this? Update. I got a lot of eye-opening insight and advice from my post, so I feel it's worth giving everyone an update, especially considering developments. First, to address a few questions that seemed to keep coming up before I lost the ability to read each and every reply, although I'm still trying. My son, 24 male, is my child from a previous relationship before I met and married my late wife. He has his own provisions in my will, but he's quite aware that the house goes to his sister. My own sister is to become guardian of my daughter if anything should happen to me. I love my sister as dearly as I love anyone, and she and her niece love each other and get along great. I trust her completely if, God forbid, anything should happen. Yes, the basement is an unusual place for a nursery, but I was just trying to make people fit where they could go. The move was supposed to be happening within a month, and Alice's older kids needed rooms now. Meanwhile, the baby isn't going to be born for about 5 months, so she could go into that room that isn't made yet. I honestly figured we could keep a crib in our room for a bit, and after that, it's no big deal for a kid to have her room in a finished basement. And honestly, I didn't want to move my office. It's been where it is forever, and I didn't want to move it. I can admit that. We've had the beginnings or groundwork of a finished basement since forever, but there was never any reason to really put a move on it. It was a big change to go from having more room than we need with just me and Stacy rattling around in the house, to suddenly scrambling for space and to not having enough. It was the obvious spot where an additional bedroom could go, but not a spot where a bedroom is now. Alice and I had talked about marriage and children, more or less in the abstract, on many occasions, and we both wanted to get married, at some point, if things continued to work out. And I wanted to have more children, although this pregnancy was quite unexpected. It was Alice's pregnancy, combined with the rent hike on her place, that accelerated the timetable on things. For what it's worth, the rent hike is real. I've seen the paperwork, and I have literally no reason to suspect the baby is not mine. But yes, the only reason why we got engaged so recently is because Alice got pregnant. The only reason why Alice and her kids would be moving in with me so suddenly is because she was likely to need to move somewhere, and I'd obviously like to be responsible for, be near, raise my coming daughter. To me, it made sense for my daughter to live with me. I never wanted to be an absentee or part-time parent, or to not have time or share space with my child. The circumstances all made sense, at least until now. I was definitely wary of Alice and paying more attention to her, especially after the many comments that I read. I came to Reddit to get a sanity check on whether or not I was being an a-hole about my conditions with Stacy, not to try to actually make any kind of major life or relationship changes. But I didn't want to turn a blind eye either. It was Friday, and Stacy texted me, asking for her allowance. I was with Alice at the time, and I went ahead and let the subject come up. I give Stacy $100 a week. Alice thinks that this is crazy and excessive. She thinks it's improper, and she's brought it up as an example of how she thinks I'm raising Stacy like a spoiled princess. She said as much again when I told her I was sending Stacy her allowance. But this time, Alice also asked if her kids would get the same allowance after we get married. I told her that someday our new daughter would probably get an allowance just like Stacy does, but that there was no way I had any plans of shelling out an extra $400 a week for her other kids. Alice got upset. She said that Stacy wastes my money on shoes and makeup. She has previously criticized Stacy for wearing fancy sneakers, high heels, and makeup. And she said that I was showing favoritism, and that that is a form of aggression. She complained about me letting Stacy buy things with my credit card, and store my credit card on her phone when I don't even let Alice do that. She said that whatever money was going to go to the kids should be split evenly amongst them. When I shrugged and told her that that wasn't going to happen, and that I wasn't going to cut Stacy's allowance, she snapped at me and said that a man living alone with his daughter and doting on her like I do is creepy and incestuous. And she said, "You've just replaced your dead wife with your daughter, and you need to stop." That was it. Sure, I've ignored a lot of red flags up till now, but that was it. She started trying to tell me about how it's unhealthy for me to be so close with Stacy, and how she wanted to be treated as an equal if we were getting married. But I interrupted her and told her that I don't think we should be getting married. I told her that I don't want her moving in, and that we were going to need to work something else out. To be perfectly honest, my sister, my brother, and some of my friends have expressed some of the same misgivings about Alice that I've read, although they were generally a lot more gentle about it. I was in love with her. In fact, I'm still in love with her, and I wasn't seeing things clearly. I told her that I would always and definitely make sure that our child had a roof over her head, but that she was going to have to work something out for herself and her kids on her own. Obviously, we had a huge fight. She screamed at me, called me a heartless bastard. She blamed Stacy for trying to sabotage our relationship. She guilt-tripped me about her cost of living and how I'm in an empty house all by myself. She also guilt-tripped me about the stress on the baby, and I actually do feel bad and worry about that. She eventually broke down crying and told me to leave. In the past 10 years, this was the first relationship with a woman I've had that became serious. I love her, and this hurts. It hurts a hell of a lot. I told Stacy that she didn't have to bother moving her stuff out of the other room, that Alice wasn't coming, and we hugged. She asked if this was her fault, and I told her no. I told her I honestly feel like marrying Alice would have been a mistake, even if the two of them could have been best buddies. I've always wanted to have a few more kids, and I've missed having a wife, but things don't always happen the way we want. So I'm pretty sure my relationship with Alice is effectively over, even if we're going to be raising a child together for the foreseeable future. My new daughter can have my son's old room whenever we work out whatever custody agreement we end up working out. I'm not sorry to be having another kid, even if I really wish the circumstances could be better. The red flags were always there. I guess it's better that I notice them now instead of even later. I would like to start and say that my, female 29, husband, male 35, comes from a well-off family, and most of his friends are well-off as well. Unlike me and my family, we come from humble working class and don't own a lot of assets like my in-laws do. My husband cares about appearances. At first, he didn't try to control how I look, but did buy me things he said I'd love, but nothing was my style really. After marriage, he sat with me telling me I get 100% to choose how I look, except when I'm with him or his family, and introduced me to brands to choose my new clothes from, and I started wearing them whenever I'm with his family and friends. Although it limited my choice on what to wear because I'm more into simple things. For his friend's birthday that was celebrated at an upscale restaurant, my husband bought me a $300 dress to wear for the occasion, but I didn't like many things about it. I told him I'd just wear my $60 floral maxi dress. He didn't think it was a good idea and said I was violating the rules he gave me after we got married, but I said the dress he bought wasn't my style. I said I either wear my dress or not go. He said fine, then whatever, but still wasn't happy. We got to the restaurant and no one said anything about my dress, except his other friend, who said I looked great. After dinner, my husband moved quickly and spilled wine all over my chest and lap. He freaked out and said that he thankfully had a replacement, then pulled out the $300 dress he previously wanted me to wear out of the bag. This whole time, I couldn't help but think he deliberately spilled the wine on my floral dress to force me into wearing the other dress. He handed me the dress and told me to go change. I got up, but instead of going to the restroom, I made my way to the door. He asked me to wait, but I kept walking while opening my phone to get an Uber to get me home. I stood outside and started arguing with him. He said he didn't get why I was behaving like this and embarrassing both him and myself like that. I said that he looked down on my dress and tried to trick me into wearing what he wanted by spilling wine on me. He told me to go back inside, but I said I won't move till my Uber arrived. He threw a fit, calling me an embarrassment, and stood there till I left. At home, he went off, saying I could have worn the dress and not make a scene, and then doubled down and walk out. Again, I said he disrespected my choices and implied I was an embarrassment. He said he was just calling a spade, and I should quit acting so insensitive and getting offended over nothing. He said I made a joke out of him in front of his friends, and one of them, the one who complimented my dress, and the one who constantly tries to video chat with me whenever he sees me online, tried to call me, but I didn't respond because he made me feel uncomfortable. Am I the a-hole? Did I handle this right? Not the a-hole, but what the actual duff? To just be sitting on a spare dress through a whole dinner? That's unhinged. This is a type of manipulation that escalates every time. So you start wearing the dresses he buys, approves of, because you don't want to fight and it's such a small request. Then it's your hairstyle, color, then your makeup, the car you drive, the job you have, etc. One day you look in the mirror and you won't know who's looking back at you, and every aspect of your life is completely controlled. He married you, as you are. Why is that a problem now? Not the a-hole. If he was so worried about how you dressed and wanted to treat you to finer brand clothing, why doesn't he just take you shopping and let you at least pick something in your style? If the price tag and quality is all that mattered, why not just let you pick a simple $300 dress you at least like? My wife, 38 female, and I, 32 male, have been together for 6 years. When we met, her daughter was 2, and after we married, I legally adopted her. All I was told, when her bio father found out about the pregnancy, he left and never returned. He wasn't on her birth certificate, and I never knew his name until recently. Early December, the bio father showed up at our house completely out of the blue. I was at work and came home to the both of them in our living room. She introduced me, but then left right after. 2 weeks went by without a single word about him. Then my wife tells me he's coming for dinner. He didn't show much interest with his daughter. He was more interested in what my wife's been up to all these years. Anyways, at the table, my wife informs me that she and him devised a plan to co-parent. They already made arrangements that he would have her all day Saturday. We never spoke about this privately, so I was caught off guard. I began asking a lot of questions, and I clearly stated I didn't think it was wise for our 8-year-old daughter to go off with a stranger she just met. My wife got upset and said I was acting like her bio dad is some sort of predator. Saturday came. My wife took her to his house and picked her up later. Daughter said they went to the zoo and had fun. I felt a little better about the situation. Everything seemed okay, and by Christmas our daughter was having sleepovers at his house. I offered to take her one evening. My wife immediately got on the defense. I made mention that it's weird I don't even know where he lives, nor do I have his number. She told me I didn't need to get involved. I asked her to give him my number in case of an emergency. She didn't like that idea either. By early mid-January, my daughter started saying she didn't like going to his house because it was scary, dirty, and she couldn't sleep there. Numerous times she spoke her mind in front of both of us. She began throwing fits before being taken there, which really raised a red flag that my wife dismissed, stating she's only bored there without her gaming systems. I again brought up wanting to know where he lived, which only caused a screaming match. I let things slide because our relationship was starting to suffer. Fast forward to this past Friday. My wife is mainly a stay-at-home mom and is also working to complete her master's. As planned, after class she was supposed to pick up our daughter and would arrive home around 8 p.m. 9 p.m. rolled around and they weren't home. I started calling her sisters, mother. No one knew where she was. I went to her college, no sign of her. Little after 2 a.m., she and my daughter walked through the door. I was up waiting. She saw me and said, "I am so sorry," with the pure look of guilt on her face. This is the story she told. During class, her phone died. She got out and went to pick up our daughter, but no one was there. Being unable to call him, she sat waiting in her vehicle. They showed up at 9 p.m. with food in hand. He had taken her to the fair and grabbed food on the way back. She allowed them to eat. She sat down on the couch and told our daughter to get her things together after she's done. My wife claims she fell asleep and woke up at 1:45 a.m. with our daughter sleeping next to her. She said she hurried out of there and rushed straight home. Not buying it, she goes to say she had pulled an all-nighter studying for her exam on Friday and was exhausted. I don't recall that, as I believe she was in bed next to me all night long. After that incident, my wife finally gave me his address and suggested that from now on, I should pick up and drop off our daughter. First time taking my daughter there, I knock on the door and he hollers to come in. I open the door and immediately push my daughter back outside. The smell hit me in the face first. I saw roaches crawling on the walls. Most of all, empty liquor and beer bottles were everywhere. There he sat on the couch, same one my wife allegedly fell asleep on, sitting there wearing nothing but his stained underwear. He was completely wasted, and I could only imagine he was expecting my wife to walk through the door. I went back home with my daughter. Last night, things took a severe turn, and I'm sure I overreacted. I saw a couple charges on an emergency credit card that has a high limit. Both my wife and myself are on the account, and we each have a card. What raised the red flag was a payment made to Metro PCS T-Mobile. None of us or her immediate family has that carrier. We all are either on Verizon or AT&T. I'm thinking she might have gotten another phone to hide her conversations with him, but I see other charges for Family Dollar, Walmart, and gas stations. I confront her. She confesses to paying his phone bill and helping him out here and there. A fight ensues when I request to take a look at her wallet and phone. She would not let me near it and hid her bag from me. That's when I told her to get out. But I told her she was not taking our daughter anywhere out of fear she would run to him. This is the only stable environment my daughter has ever known, and I do not want her getting uprooted and living with an alcoholic. This morning, I found out my wife had stayed with her sister after her mother told her she's not allowed at her house if she's involved with her ex. My mother-in-law 100% supports what I did. My sister-in-law, though, is livid at me, and according to my wife, is beside herself on the verge of a mental breakdown. I'm thinking I was too quick to toss her out last night. I don't want to fight in front of our daughter, and the screaming was getting worse with every passing minute. I'm worried now she'll be too pissed off to come back and civilly communicate. What scares me the most, if I say she can come back, and she does, but only to take our daughter and shack up with the bio father. I do not want my daughter in that environment. I'm fine with my daughter going to my mother-in-law's. I took off work today to be with my daughter and sort things out. My mother-in-law and I already spoke about her watching her next week when I work. Do I let my wife come back home and hopefully work through this? Or should I just focus on keeping my daughter safe? I've asked her what she wants to do. She said she wants to stay home with me. Not looking for legal advice. I've got that covered. Dude, you didn't act fast enough. This 8-year-old is not your stepdaughter. She is legally your daughter. Your wife can stay with her sister. Who gives a crap if her sister is having a breakdown? Your wife should have thought of that before she kicked off this crap show. I would not let your daughter out of your sight. Your daughter comes first. You did the right thing. I'd be livid if I wasn't involved in the decisions that were made in the beginning with her bio dad. I can speak a little on this because my oldest child was adopted by my husband. Her bio father was never in the picture either. However, I would never make decisions alone in regards to her and the bio father. With that said, I really think you should walk away from her. She's used family funds to pay this dude's bills. She's lied, most likely cheated, made decisions about your daughter without you, etc. No way in hell I would continue to put up with that nonsense. Since I started dating my husband, we've been dating since high school, 28 years ago. My mother-in-law has never liked me. She has always thought he could do better, and has told me multiple times that she wished that he chose someone else. Needless to say, my contact with her is limited to pleasantries and holiday greetings. When I do have to visit with her or interact with her for extended periods of time, she makes it very clear that I am not wanted or welcomed. When we got inside, they had gifts for everyone. My husband got an entire bag full of presents. Me and the kids got cheap socks. Again, I did not want or expect presents, but I would have rather my kids got nothing than cheap socks. The last time that I had an actual visit with her at my in-laws' house, it was very obvious that she did not want me or my kids there. When she saw me, she scoffed and said that she didn't know I would be coming, despite the fact that my husband told her numerous times I would be. We spent the day out, and the entire time she fawned over my husband and pretended like me and the kids didn't exist. At lunch, she paid for everyone but me, which is fine. I am an adult. I can pay for myself. I don't need or want her to do anything for me. When we got back to the house, father-in-law started asking me about me going back to college. I told him what I was studying, and he told me that it was a waste of time. Just get a job at McDonald's. His comments were very hurtful and mean. It was super uncomfortable at their house. Mother-in-law basically ignored everyone but my husband, and the kids asked me multiple times if we could leave. While there, I texted my husband and told him that none of us are having a good time and we would like to leave. He texted back very angrily that we would not be leaving and we need to stop. We sat like this for hours. Finally, my husband suggested that we go get dinner. The restaurant was near our hotel, and I told my husband that he should go. Me and the kids will hang out at the hotel and order pizza. He again got angry and said that all of us were going. Dinner was miserable. Mother-in-law practically shoved me out of the way so that she could sit next to my husband, and father-in-law acted like sitting next to my son would give him cooties. When we got back to the hotel, I asked my husband to join me at the bar for a nightcap and basically told him that he was a spineless coward. He allowed his wife and his children to be treated like crap and did nothing but sit there and accept it. I told him that the second he got back to the hotel room, he needed to apologize to his children sincerely, and that he needs to confront his parents and tell them that their behavior was absolutely unacceptable and out of line, and I would accept nothing less than that from him. He did call and confront both of his parents when we got home. They offered half-hearted apologies. Since then, I have not seen or spoken to them. This was over 8 years ago now. Last night, my husband said he wants to go visit his parents. I told him that was fine and to have a nice time. He asked if I would want to go with him, and I told him no. He asked why, and I told him that after the way I was treated last time, I will never darken their doorway ever again. Now he will not stop pressuring me to change my mind. He's tried anger, he's tried pity, and now he's ignoring me. I refuse to give in, and I also refuse to allow myself to waste precious time on people who don't deserve it. I'm not really sure what to do. Do I go and make myself miserable to keep my husband happy? Or do I stand my ground and tell him that I am not going? Why does he care if you go? Why is it so upsetting to him? It's perfectly fine for him to go on his own, but he should be able to explain why it matters to him. I'm stunned you stayed with this man after he let his mother treat you and the kids like this. The freaking nerve of him. My estranged husband was in a bad car accident and needed emergency surgery. Even though we have a strained relationship, I still went to the hospital with our son in case he wanted to see our son when he woke up, and to support my in-laws, who I still have a great relationship with. After his surgery, he was only allowed one visitor, and the nurse said he kept asking for his wife. It was awkward since I was the last person anybody expected him to want to see, and his girlfriend wanted to go instead, since she thought he was just confused and meant her. In the end, I went to see him. After the visit, everybody wanted to know what he said to me and if he was okay. I told them he was fine, but wouldn't tell them what else he said to me. They kept asking me questions and getting upset that I wouldn't give them a straight answer. The girlfriend also kept asking me if he had really meant to see her and got angry because I was dodging the question. The reason I never told them what he said was because it would have caused issue with his girlfriend. I didn't want to hurt her while she was already worrying about him, and I was still processing what he had said. Am I the a-hole? Edit. He said a lot of things. Mostly, he was apologizing and conceding on almost everything we've been fighting over. It's hard to explain without a lot of context. A lot of that stuff is going to upset his girlfriend, and maybe his family too. I also asked him if he wanted to speak to his girlfriend instead, and he asked me why he would want to do that. I said because he loved her and she was worried about him, and he told me he didn't love her, and admitted all of the reasons he was using to justify us not divorcing were all BS. Not the a-hole. There is absolutely no way you could have said any of that to them without upsetting at least the girlfriend, and potentially becoming the bad guy. Especially since he was probably on painkillers and may not even remember saying it in a few days. It's also not your responsibility to explain his crap to anyone. If he meant what he said, that's on him to sort out his mess. If he just said it because he's high on painkillers, then it should be left at that moment.